I'm climbing Singge La now. There is not much snow on the road, but the snow has melted and the road is like totally muddy and I don't know, it's very, very slippery. My car is sliding around a lot. Uh, and now the climb to Singge La is starting now, and there will be a lot of snow, so I think it's time to put on the snow chains and hopefully safely, hopefully, hope to cross Singge La safely. It's not too far, maybe like 5 to 10 kilometers now. So I'll put on my snow chains and then hopefully it should be safer for me to cross Singge La. The reason I was crossing Singge La in April was to reach Zanskar in time in order to document the tilling of the fields in Shaday. There are a very few villages in Zanskar still using yaks to plough their fields, and each passing year the yaks are replaced by tractors and other machines to make the process easier. So I wanted to document the practice before it disappears forever, and Shaday was the best place to do it. But to reach Shaday, I had to first cross Singge La. Although there was a lot of snow on the road, the drive was quite smooth with the snow chains on. But just as I was reaching the top of the pass, my car got stuck in a patch of snow collected there by the blowing winds. Stuck now. It took me a few tries, but I got my car moving again, only to get stuck in a different snowbank a few meters up the road. One last push and I managed to safely cross Singge La without any further issues. It's quite cold here now, so I'll start driving. Yeah, go down when the road is dry. I think there is still some snow on the road, so I'll keep my snow chains on just to be safe. Yeah. After Singge La, the road climbs down towards the village of Lingshed with numerous hairpin bends. I think the road is dry from now onwards, so time to take off the snow chains. From Lingshed, the road plunges steeply down towards the Zanskar river. The road here is so steep that many vehicles struggle to climb up the road from the opposite direction. Even climbing down, I had to drive very carefully with the brakes constantly engaged to keep the car from going out of control. Eventually, I reached the bottom of the climb and stopped my car by a small stream which flows across the road. I waited a few minutes for the car to cool down and splash some water on it to wash off the mud from Singge La. Having reached Zanskar, it was then time to head to Shaday. It is a hike that I'm very familiar with, having done it 6 times already. The weather was very clear when I set off towards Shaday, so I decided to reduce the weight of my backpack by leaving my tent behind and sleeping out in the open. There are numerous small caves, stone pens, and stone huts where one could take shelter along the way to Shaday, so a tent is not really necessary. And with the weather being so clear, it is always a great experience to sleep out in the open under a clear, starry sky. The weather was very clear when I was going towards Shaday and I slept in the open, but on my way back the weather was a bit overcast and it had snowed the previous night, so I found a small cave-like overhang and took shelter there for the night. On reaching Shaday, I found that the tilling of the fields won't start for another few days. So I spent my days walking to different areas around the village looking for wildlife, and I found a lot of them. So what happens in spring is that most of the animals migrate down to the valley floor to graze on the fresh grass and leaves that start sprouting there. The higher reaches of the mountains would still be a bit too cold for the vegetation to grow, so most of the animals come down to the valley floor to graze. I found huge herds of ibex, almost 40 to 50 strong, grazing in the valleys close to Shaday. Sometimes they will be lazily resting in the mountain slopes in the far bank of the river, and sometimes they would be grazing in the open fields only a few meters in front of me. Apart from ibex, I also found a herd of baral or blue sheep grazing very close to the Shaday village. The blue sheep are not as impressive once you're used to the ibex, but still, it was a pleasure to see so many of them grazing so close to me. There are many wolves in the area as well, and one evening, as I was walking back to Shaday, I saw a donkey killed by the wolves. The poor donkey was attacked and killed just 10 minutes or so before I reached the spot. It was the same donkey in one of my earlier videos where it was attacked by wolves during the winter, and the villagers managed to save it by burning the flesh around the wound. The donkey managed to survive the ordeal in winter, but it was not so lucky this time around. Finally, after a few days of waiting and wildlife watching, the process of Zingme, or tilling the fields, started in Shaday. This work, like everything else in Shaday, is a community affair with the members of the extended family helping each other out, taking turns to plough their fields one by one over the course of the next few days. Unfortunately, the villagers were able to plough the fields for only one day, after which there was a death in the village and all the activities were stopped until the last rites could be performed for the deceased person. I had hoped to stay in Shaday until all the fields were ploughed, but the villagers told me that it would be almost a week before they can resume their work again. I had spent a week in Shaday already, so it was time for me to say my goodbyes and leave. I planned to come back in the autumn to document the threshing of their fields and collect enough footage of the life in the village in order to create a short documentary film about Shaday at some point in the future.